Nos Hyena here. Today's video is my 10 craziest FurryCon stories. Yay! Now, I've been part of multiple con hotel evacuations, and I've even taken some crazy stuff. But that doesn't even make the list for my 10 craziest FurryCon stories. So, here they are. Now, this story happened at my first FurryCon, which was Indie FurCon in 2015. Now, it was Saturday afternoon, and I was leaving the hotel to get some food. I saw this guy, and he had an entourage, and he was getting photos with the people at the reception desk, and I didn't really think anything of it. So, I went to get food, and then I came back, and then out of curiosity, I asked the person at the reception desk, "Hey, who was that before?" And she was like, "Don't tell anyone, but it's totally not Chris Brown." And I realized it totally was Chris Brown. Chris Brown was 10 feet away from me, and I didn't even recognize him. It turns out that he was playing a show in downtown Indy that night. And I guess his managers decided to hide him at a FurryCon because there's so much fun and amazing, awesome stuff going on. No one, including myself, would even notice if there was a celebrity there. Now, here's the thing. I don't listen to Chris Brown. He has a questionable past. But this really superficial part of myself was still kicking myself that I didn't run up and ask for a photo. Like, this is a reflection of how much back then I was like, look at me on social media. And I definitely don't do that anymore. Nope. That's why I've only tweeted thousands of times, because I'm totally not an attention whore. Okay, now the second story is how we hid in a basement at a FurryCon. Okay, and I'm not gonna tell you which FurryCon it is because I don't want to name anyone. Okay, so this was before I did YouTube, and I was at a FurryCon, and one of my friends who is reasonably well known in the fandom had a fan come up to them. And the fan was like, for lack of a better word, crazy. Like, this fan was saying things like, "I've dreamed about you. I want to take you away and hide you in my castle. I want to drink your tears and your blood." So really creepy stuff like that. Here's the thing. This went on for like half an hour, and all of my friends were just standing there laughing because I guess these things that this person was saying, they just found too hilarious. So we endured half an hour of ramblings, and then eventually one of my friends made up some excuse like, "Oh, we've got to go to a meeting at 11 p.m. at night for some furries," and then everyone kind of shuffled out of there. And then the first thing we did after going away from this person is we literally went and hid in the basement of the hotel. Like, we were so scared of this person, we just hid there. It was kind of a little bit of an extreme response in hindsight. There was this curtain behind us, and we were all like clutching onto each other, hugging each other like the scared Scooby-Doo gang or something. I'm exaggerating here. And then from behind the curtain, it goes shh. And then like people like jump, but it's like a cleaning ladies. And some people were like, "Oh my gosh, I totally thought it was that fan that was coming with a machete to come and like chop all of our heads off." Okay, this next story is about how TSA opened my fursuit head in front of everyone. So this actually happened twice. So the first time it happened was on my way to MFF last year, and this was literally my first time flying with my fursuit head. And then the guy from TSA security takes my head out of its bag, holds my head by its nose, just like gripping it like that. And I'm like, "Oh no, don't hurt the head." And then he just kind of gives me this weird look, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's a mascot head." And he's like, "Okay." And then it happened again when I was coming back from Vancouver. And it was in LAX, and the lady pulls out my head, and she's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "It's a mascot head." And she's like, "Oh, what team are you a mascot for?" And I'm like, I'm a mascot for the hyenas." Like, just completely lying. And then she gives me this really like puzzled, "I don't believe you" look. And then she gives me back my fursuit head, and I kind of awkwardly shuffle away. Okay, this next one is the time I walked through the forest with a suitcase to get to a fur meet. So this is back when I had my Booga kangaroo fursuit, and I was new to the fandom, and I was about non-stop socializing and meeting as many furries as possible. So I guess to save money, instead of taking an Uber there, because I didn't have a ride to the bowl meet, I took a bus and then took a light rail to where they have the bowling meets. But then, as I was looking at my phone, waiting for the GPS to update, I realized that I overshot my stop by like 2 stops. And the next light rail that was coming back was coming in like 40 minutes. So I like, oh gee, I need to walk this. And it was definitely walkable. It was like a 20-minute distance, but the problem is I had this huge suitcase full of fursuit. So I walked through the car park with this medical building type area that was closed, so that was kind of spoopy. And then I walked through this apartment complex, and then I realized that I was following these GPS instructions, but it was gonna take me through this like mini section of forest that was basically a 45-degree angle down to the highway. So I'm basically going down this black run difficulty with a suitcase full of my fursuit, basically running down straight towards the highway where there were oncoming cars. And the thing was, at the bottom of this slope, there's like 2 feet of distance between me and the cars. So I like just ran down this steep hill. I somehow didn't trip. It was like, I could have broken something, honestly. I should have just walked around, but it was like an extra 20 minutes. So I ran all the way down, kind of like stopped myself right before the forest ends and the road starts. I kind of like brake just before I get on that 2-foot gap, and then I run across, and luckily there's no cars around, and then I like get to the fur meet, and it's just a fun fur meet. But it was like just ridiculous, the lengths that I went to save money and go to a fur meet. I should have just gotten an Uber at some stage, but I was like, I can do it myself. I'm totally confident in this. So this story is about how I suited up in 30 seconds to hug my fursuit crush. And no, I'm not gonna say who my fursuit crush is. It was at Anthrocon this year, and I was at a room party, and I was hanging out, and then my fursuit crush walks open the door. So it's like that scene in the movies where like their eyes turn into like love hearts. My instinct is, must get in suit so I can get a hug. Because when I'm nervous, I'm like, well, if I'm in my fursuit, I can go and get hugs. So I just like bolt out of the room unexplained. I run upstairs. I like put my suit on in record time. I don't even know how I did it. It was just like this desire that was like fueling the speed. And this is all being in a full sprint. So I sprinted up these 3 flights of stairs, sprinted into my room, sprinted into fursuit. This isn't sponsored by Sprint Mobile, by the way. And then I get back in the room, I'm in fursuit, and then I get my fursuit hug. So that is literally the length that I went to get fursuit hugs. Now, someone would ask me, Nos, why didn't you just ask for hugs while you're out of suit? And I'm like, I don't know. I just get easily flustered sometimes, and it's easier for me to try and get a hug when I'm in my fursuit, because it's like, I'm an anthro! Anthros get hugs easier, so yeah. Okay, this next story is about the time that I DJ'd for one person. So this is at Furry Down Under in 2016. I had a fantastic con, I made a lot of new friends, and I DJ'd 3 times. But the first set, no one turned up to because they forgot to include it in the schedule, which was fine because I had 2 really cool sets. So I do my DJ set, and there's like a maximum of like 7 people that come in. And then they slowly trickle out until there's literally 1 person left. And this is a really cool person. They're doing their spinny stick thing. It's really awesome. But this was still pretty early in my DJ career, and I was still trying to work out how everything works. So I was just so nervous, like, play music to keep this person going. So I noticed that if they enjoyed the track a little bit more, they'd do more spinny stuff, and if it wasn't a great track for them, they wouldn't. So it was a really fun experience in the end, getting to vibe with one person and see which music they like. So it was a real challenge and a lot of fun, and then he left. But then actually some of my new friends came in, and I played for like 4 people, and it was fun. It was really intimate. But by the time Sunday rolled around, I had like dozens and dozens of people turning up to my Furry concert, which was fun. They were all really fun experiences, and I had a blast. So this is another sprinting story. This is the time that I almost missed my flight back home from MFF. So this was back in 2015. It was my first MFF. The first night I got there, I had drinks with Koshiro and some of his friends. And Koshiro pointed out that I was literally shaking. Like, I was shaking from nervous excitement and all of these fursuiters around. And this was before I had Nos. And this is the first time that I saw like hundreds of suitors in one place. It was an overwhelming stimulus for my brain, and I was just in my happy place and I was feeling so excited. So by the time it's Sunday night rolls around, I'm like chilling, I'm like still walking around, I'm still mesmerized by all the fursuiters. People were starting to go home, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have my flight until 9 p.m, so I'm walking around, all that kind of stuff. I was filming as much as I could, I was having as much fun as I could, and then I'm like, I should check when my flight is so that I can leave for the airport, you know, at a reasonable time. So I check my flight schedule, and I realized that my flight leaves at 7:30, not 9 p.m. So I got the time wrong. So it's like an hour 15 before my flight. I'm like, okay, I just have to be at the airport in like half an hour. So I run back up to my room. Luckily, I'm in the main hotel. I grab my bags. I'm trying to go downstairs in the elevator, and I'm realizing it's not working. So I literally point to a random person. I'm like, you, help me move my bags down. So he helps me with my bags down, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go say bye to like Koshiro, even though I should have been at the airport at this stage. So I'm like telegramming, where are you? I gotta say bye. And as you may know, MFF is really hard to meet up with people in. So when you try and meet up with someone, it takes like sometimes 5 minutes just to find someone in the same general area because there's so many people around there. And I didn't really hear back from Telegram, so I'm like, oh, I kind of know where he is because he told me he'd be eating dinner here. So I walk back upstairs with my bags, trying to find one of my friends, and then I'm like, oh no, I just have to leave. And now it's like 15 minutes before my flight, so like technically I should have checked my bags in like 5 minutes. Now the MFF hotel's at the airport hotel, but it's like a 5 to 10 minute drive away. It's like not right next to the airport. So I like hail an Uber. The Uber gets there. I check into my flight online in the Uber, and I somehow managed to drop off my bags 30 minutes before the flight. The airline's policy is 45. I don't know how, but they accept my bags, and I like run to the gate, and I get there like 2 minutes before the flight closes. So had I not made that flight, I would have been out of pocket a lot of money. So that would not have been fun. So I was really glad to make that flight. And yeah, that's the story of how I almost missed my flight because I misread it. Okay, this story is about how I got second place at a fursuit dance competition. So I used to do dance comps before I got Nos, and I never did them really seriously. Like, I basically just freestyle. Like, that was what I was doing, right? And in 2015, I decided to go to FA United. And that year it was in Whippany, New Jersey. Like, it was a pretty good con. You know, it was my second con ever. It was fine. And I wanted to enter in the Fursuit dance comp, but it got canceled, like, on the day of the competition because I think the judge pulled out or something like that. And then about 30 minutes before the dance comp started, I saw a tweet about it, like, maybe getting uncanceled. So I get in my kangaroo suit, I like run downstairs, and it turns out they are running the dance comp. So I think there should have been like 15 people entering, but only 7 people made it to like the canceled and then uncanceled Fursuit dance comp. So I get to the dance comp. It's actually emceed by Pepper Coyote and Fox and More, so that's pretty cool. I do my thing, which is basically this for a bunch of times. And then after I repeat it enough, I do my pet trick, which is a flip. And that's my entire routine. And it lasts like 20 seconds. And then I guess it's not a very common practice and it's a questionable practice, but they gave the scores at the time of the dance, which was interesting. And I can't remember my score, but what ended up happening is I ended up getting second. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. I still would call myself a novice at dancing, but it was a fun experience. This next story is about how my entire flight back from BLFC was Furries. So, Biggest Little Furrycon is one of my favorite cons. It takes place in Reno, Nevada. It's inside the Grand Sierra. It's a resort and casino, so there's a lot to do. There's go-karts around. I'm gay. There's Walmart across the street. There's indoor bowling. it's a really cool environment to have a furry convention. So I had a blast, and then on my flight back, it was literally like everyone was a furry. Like, I swear the flight attendants and the pilots might have been furries, because I went to the airport with a couple of fur friends, and then there were furries at the airport. So it's like the con migrated from the Grand Sierra to the airport. So it was pretty darn cool to have our own chartered furry flight. It wasn't, it was a public flight, but it felt like that. And everyone had their fursuit heads. I saw people in the back that I knew putting on their fursuit heads and taking selfies before the flight took off. So it was like a complete furry takeover of this flight. And then when we landed, everyone who didn't have like a quick connection to make, we actually all decided to get a group photo. And this is the photo of the furriest flight ever. Okay, and this last one is another DJ story and a little bit of a confessional. So this is my first con I DJ'd at. I didn't know how to DJ when I applied. So I've been a musician my whole life. I started producing music. So I decided on a whim to submit a DJ demo. I was like, yeah, this is a cool way to perform for the fandom and connect with people and have a lot of fun. But the problem was that my DJ demo, it was made using computer software, so I manually mixed in the tracks by hand, which is a huge no-no, and it's hugely frowned upon. So yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. But I didn't know that that wasn't the etiquette at the time, because I didn't know anything about DJing. So I submitted my DJ demo that didn't actually have any DJing, and to my surprise and excitement, I got a DJ slot. Which means that with the con starting in 2 weeks, I had to learn DJing really, really quickly. And also I didn't have any equipment. So what I did is I went on Amazon, bought a bunch of DJ equipment, hit up my 2 friends that are local DJs, basically begged them to be like, teach me your ways. Teach me how to be good in a really short amount of time. I didn't have any music. I had like 10 songs that were EDM, so I had to frantically download. I skipped a fair amount of class for this venture, I remember. So it was like a 2-week scramble to get everything together, and I got to my set and it ended up going pretty well. Like, I didn't have any major train wrecks. I even got some kudos after the set. Some people were like, yeah, great set. So I did well enough not to super stuff up. So yeah, it was great in the end. It was fun. So that's the story of how I faked my way to my first DJ slot. Thanks everyone for watching. Also, a big shout out to all of my super secret patrons. With your support, you help me continue to create awesome and fun content for all of you. So thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it a lot. It means the world to me. Now, if you'd like your own secret patron badge and access to sneak peeks and behind-the-scenes content, then you should consider becoming a super secret patron too. So thank you everyone so much for watching. Stay tuned for... So yeah, that's the story. Yay! So yeah, that's my video. 10 or 9 or 8 or 7 or however many ways. Craziest furry con story. So thank you everyone so much for watching. Thank you, I'm Nos Hyena. Hyena Nos Hyena here. Okay, I gotta go. Huff. Ah, yes. Huff. I'm a sexy hyena. Woo. Okay. Ah!